That's you, handcuffed to a metal table in a windowless interrogation room, watching a small television screen replay the biggest DEA bust in the history of the southern border. $14 million in cash stacked like bricks on folding tables. 900 kilos of 96% pure methamphetamine. 43 people arrested in a single morning. The news anchors are talking excitedly about a ruthless cartel warlord, a heavily armed mastermind who supposedly built this highly sophisticated criminal empire from the ground up. They are completely wrong. It was never a warlord, it was you. And all you had to start with was a faded university chemistry degree, a brilliant mind that nobody wanted to hire, and a mother who could not stop coughing up blood into the kitchen sink. You were a straight A student, the ultimate pride of a neighborhood where kids usually do not live long enough to wear a graduation gown. You send your polished resume to every pharmaceutical company, biotech firm, and research laboratory across the country. You wait by the phone for weeks, but the calls never come. The hiring managers see your zip code, your last name, and the subtle accent you can never fully hide, and they throw your application into the shredder. Those lucrative laboratory positions always go to the kids whose fathers play golf with the board of directors. So you move back to the dusty streets of Sinaloa with a piece of paper that costs more than your family's entire life savings, and you take a job stocking heavy boxes of nails and fertilizer at a local hardware store. You work 50 hours a week for a miserable $400 a month, and every night, you go home to a tiny house that smells of damp wood and sickness. You sit at a rickety wooden table eating cheap rice and beans while your mother coughs violently into a stained rag. She has been coughing for months, a deep, rattling sound that keeps you awake until dawn. The local clinic refuses to treat her without running expensive diagnostic tests first. You stand in the fluorescent aisle of the hardware store, staring blankly at the shelves, running the brutal math over and over in your exhausted mind. Your entire monthly paycheck barely covers your basic groceries. The mandatory medical test alone costs 3 months of your salary. The actual treatment will cost a year of wages you simply do not have. You are completely out of time, drowning in a system designed to crush people exactly like you. That is the exact moment a man named Lo walks into your aisle. He does not pick up a tool. He does not buy anything. He just watches you work for a long time. Lo doesn't pick up a tool. He doesn't buy anything. He just watches you work for a long time. Then he walks over and asks if you are the kid who went to the state university for chemistry. In a neighborhood this small and suffocating, everyone knows everyone else's business. He says he knows someone who needs a chemist. He says the job pays extremely well and it pays entirely in cash. He doesn't say what the job is for. He doesn't need to. You know exactly what a chemist does in Sinaloa when the job pays in cash and the employer does not have a legitimate website. You tell him no, but Lo comes back the following week. He stands in the exact same aisle, asking the exact same question. This time, the crushing weight of the medical bills forces your mouth to open. You tell him you want to meet the employer first. They drive you in a black vehicle to a secluded ranch 40 minutes outside of town. It is a terrifyingly clean property guarded by quiet dogs. A man named Cardenas is sitting in the shade under a large mesquite tree, calmly drinking a glass of horchata. He is maybe 50 years old. He speaks softly, lacking the loud arrogance you expected from a cartel boss. He asks about your university degree. He asks about your specific grade point average. He asks what you understand about complex organic synthesis. It feels exactly like a corporate job interview. He explains that their current operation uses a very crude reduction method and the product is inconsistent. He wants 95% purity. He offers you $5,000 a month. He sees you doing the math in your head. He just sips his horchata and waits. They put a heavy black cloth over your eyes and drive you deep into the rugged terrain of the Sierra. When the vehicle finally stops and the blindfold comes off, you're standing inside a massive concrete building with absolutely no windows. The dirt floor is covered in a chaotic mess of plastic buckets, cheap garden hoses, and rusted propane burners. The chemical smell hits you like a physical wall. It is a suffocating, toxic mixture of raw ammonia, industrial solvent, and rotten eggs. 2 armed men are standing over a boiling cook that looks like a high school science experiment gone horribly wrong. This is the multi-million-dollar operation you are supposed to fix. You spend your entire first week doing nothing but throwing their garbage away. You test the contaminated precursors. You sketch a completely new floor plan on the back of a torn feed bag. You write down a highly specific list of the exact equipment you need to do this right. You demand proper borosilicate glassware. You demand a reflux condenser, a rotary evaporator, perfectly accurate digital scales, and a professional ventilation system. Cardenas reads the list and does not even blink at the exorbitant cost. A heavy supply truck arrives exactly 4 days later with every single item you requested. You realize in that cold moment that the cartel possesses a vastly superior procurement system than the entire Mexican higher education network. You rebuild the laboratory from the ground up. You design a highly controlled synthesis route using pseudoephedrine, reduction with hydriodic acid and red phosphorus. Clean, controlled, repeatable. Your very first batch tests at exactly 96.2% purity. Cardenas holds the clear sample bag up to the harsh overhead light like a master jeweler examining a flawless diamond. He does not congratulate you. He does not say good job. He simply looks at you and tells you to make more, and you make more. Within 2 months, you train 2 local farm workers to be your primary assistants. They cannot spell the word methamphetamine, but they can follow your strict instructions. You teach them the exact same way your university professors taught you. Step by step, measure twice, temperature matters, contamination kills the yield. Production scales rapidly. 1 single lab becomes 2. 2 labs become 4. The street value of your flawless monthly output hits $12 million. Your personal cut remains exactly $5,000. You are generating $12 million a month for the organization, but your envelopes still contain the exact same $5,000. The mathematical disparity finally outweighs your survival instincts. The next time Team Cardenas visits the compound, you sit across from him and ask for a raise. You expect anger. You expect a weapon to be drawn. Instead, he simply smiles. He immediately agrees to increase your pay to $8,000 a month, and he tosses you the keys to a brand new truck. It feels entirely too easy. Then, he opens a foil-wrapped torta, takes a slow bite, and gives you a piece of information you never asked for. He tells you a story about the chemist who ran this laboratory before you arrived. He describes the man as a brilliant scientist and a highly reliable worker. But Cardenas explains the man eventually got greedy. He started skimming chemical precursors from the inventory and selling his own product on the side to local street dealers. Cardenas pauses to wipe his mouth with a napkin. He tells you that his men found the chemist inside the exact same concrete building where you are standing right now. They found him at the bottom of a blue plastic barrel filled with industrial-grade acid. Cardenas does not change his tone of voice, his breathing, or his facial expression between describing the flavor of his food and describing the dissolving human body in the barrel. You understand the unspoken message perfectly. The raise is real, and so is the barrel. Year 2 begins. You are now overseeing 8 fully operational laboratories carefully hidden across the unforgiving terrain of the Sierra. You manage 40 employees. Your monthly output has reached a volume so massive that you have actively stopped trying to calculate the exact financial figures. The sheer scale of the numbers makes your hands shake. You have built a flawless manufacturing system. Every single laboratory is run by a lead cook that you train personally. You visit each hidden location on a strict, randomized weekly rotation. You run aggressive quality control tests. You keep absolutely zero written records. Everything. The complex formulas, the precise temperature gradients, the exact chemical ratios, the supplier contacts, and the GPS coordinates of the labs exist solely inside your head. You have become the living, breathing database for a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. Then comes a day Cardenas sends you to the border city of Tijuana. It is supposed to be a standard consulting trip to fix a local lab struggling with chemical contamination. On the drive through the crowded city, your driver takes a wrong turn into a notorious neighborhood called Zona Norte. Suddenly, the abstract numbers on your mental spreadsheets become terrifyingly real. You see them sitting on broken concrete curbs, standing in dark alleyways, lying motionless on pieces of dirty cardboard. Hundreds of people. They are nothing but skin and bone, with deep infected sores covering their faces and arms. A young woman, no older than 25, is scratching her arms raw in front of a heavily fortified pharmacy with iron bars on its windows. It looks exactly like the clinic where your mother gets her lung treatments. You stare at her through the tinted glass of the truck. In her erratic, desperate movements, you vividly see the exact molecular structure of what you cooked sitting right there in her bloodstream. You designed that specific molecule for maximum receptor binding. You meticulously optimized it for extreme potency. You personally quality tested it for absolute consistency. And right here, on this broken street, it is working exactly as intended. Your driver notices you staring. He tells you not to think about it, casually saying they would be using something else anyway. You have heard that justification before. But watching the absolute devastation your genius created, the words sound completely hollow. You fix the Tijuana lab, but you make sure the driver never takes that route again. You're sitting in a cheap taqueria eating breakfast when the breaking news flashes across the small television mounted above the counter. A joint operation by the DEA and federal police. Wiretaps. Informants. You put your fork down as you watch the screen. The calm man who used to drink horchata under a mesquite tree is now wearing heavy handcuffs, being forcefully walked toward a waiting military helicopter. Cardenas has been arrested. Your burner phone rings less than an hour later. The voice on the other end belongs to his lieutenant, a man named Rodrigo. He is much younger, much louder, and dangerously unpredictable. He tells you that absolutely nothing changes and that production continues. He tells you that you answer directly to him now, but everything changes immediately. Rodrigo does not understand the delicate science of organic chemistry. He does not care about your 96% purity or your pristine reputation among premium buyers in California and Arizona. He only cares about massive volume. He aggressively orders you to cut the pure product with a cheap, readily available chemical additive called MSM to artificially stretch the total output. You try to explain the basic principles of addiction economics to him. You warn him that cutting the product reduces the overall quality, and drastically reducing the quality immediately loses the premium buyers. He tells you to shut your mouth and just cook. You follow his orders to stay alive. The purity plummets to barely 80%. The premium buyers across the border switch to rival suppliers within a single month. The revenue drops drastically. Rodrigo does not read market numbers. He only reads loyalty, and to his paranoid, violent mind, the dropping revenue means you are suddenly disloyal to the organization. 2 of your most trusted lab leads disappear in the exact same week without a single word of explanation. Rodrigo replaces them with heavily armed soldiers who cannot even read a basic recipe card, let alone safely manage volatile chemical solvents. One of them nearly incinerates an entire facility. You realize with absolute certainty that Rodrigo is aggressively cleaning house, and your name is next. Plato, the young farm worker you personally trained on your very first day, comes to your house late at night. He is 21 now, but he looks completely terrified, asking you questions like you are still his university professor. He tells you that Rodrigo is aggressively cleaning house, eliminating anyone closely connected to Cardenas to tie up loose ends. He says he heard your name mentioned in a recent meeting, not as a respected chemist, but as a severe problem that needs to be solved immediately. He tells you this, and then he begs you for an answer on what to do. You do not have an answer for him. You just tell him to be careful. You think about running away. You have enough cash buried in 3 different locations to disappear completely. But your mother is still in Sinaloa, and the highly classified laboratory locations are still locked inside your head. Rodrigo knows both of those facts perfectly well. The very next day, the DEA contacts you through a back channel you did not even know existed. It is a small, folded piece of paper left by the front desk clerk at a cheap motel you use for sleeping between lab visits. The handwritten message is incredibly simple. It says they know exactly who you are. It says they know exactly what you make. It says they can offer absolute protection, followed by a single phone number. You hold that piece of paper in your hand for 2 full days. You think about the man in the barrel of acid. You think about your mother's chronic cough. You think about the young woman in Zona Norte scratching her arms. You think about Plato desperately asking you what to do to stay alive. You pick up a burner phone and you dial the number. The agent on the other end of the line does not waste a single second of your time. He tells you exactly what the federal agency wants from you. They want the precise GPS coordinates of all 8 hidden laboratories. They want the meticulously guarded precursor supply chains. They want the specific distribution routes moving products across the border. And most importantly, they want Rodrigo's daily communication patterns. In exchange, the agent tells you exactly what they will give you: full legal immunity, immediate physical extraction, complete geographic relocation, a brand new identity provided by the government, and your sick mother is fully included in the deal. He gives you the timeline: 3 months of total undercover cooperation, and then you vanish forever. You agree to the terms before he even finishes speaking. For the next 90 days, you live inside a suffocating psychological nightmare. You are actively living a double life where one single mistake means waking up inside a plastic barrel of industrial acid. By day, you stand in the stifling heat of the concrete laboratories, meticulously cooking high-grade methamphetamine for a highly violent criminal organization. You smile at the heavily armed guards. You shake Rodrigo's hand when he visits to inspect the yield. You pretend everything is perfectly normal, but by night, sitting alone in the dark of your cheap motel room, you type out encrypted messages on a burner phone. You feed exact coordinates and logistical schedules to the very people who are going to burn this entire empire to the ground. You have become a walking paradox. You are simultaneously the chief manufacturer of the poison and the ultimate recall notice. The coordinated federal raids finally come on a quiet Thursday, exactly 3 hours before dawn. It is a massive, unprecedented tactical strike. All 8 laboratories are hit simultaneously by heavily armed strike teams. 43 people are arrested before the sun even comes up. 900 kilos of your flawlessly pure product are seized in a single sweep. $14 million in shrink-wrapped cash are confiscated from the safe houses. Rodrigo is taken down hard at a fortified compound in Mazatlan, his face shoved violently into the dirt. By the time the media parades him in handcuffs on the midday news, you are already gone. You watch the complete collapse of your empire from the back seat of an unmarked federal vehicle quietly crossing the border. They put you in a quiet, dusty town in New Mexico. The federal government gives you a rented apartment near a small community college and forged paperwork for a brand new life. You get a low-paying job as a basic laboratory technician at the local municipal water treatment plant. Every single day, you test the city water for pH levels and chlorine concentrations. You sit under flickering fluorescent lights using the exact same borosilicate glassware and digital instruments you once used to test the purity of methamphetamine. The profound irony does not bother you anymore. It just sits there in the back of your mind like a heavy stone in your shoe. Your mother lives safely in a small house 2 towns over under a new name. You visit her every Sunday. She still coughs sometimes, but she finally has her proper medication. She asks about your new job, and you tell her water treatment is highly important work. She smiles and says she is very proud of you. You just chew your food slowly and stare at the kitchen wall. 6 months later, you read a short, buried news article about 14 unidentified bodies found in a mass grave near an abandoned concrete building in the Sierra. The geographical location perfectly matches the coordinates of laboratory number 4, the exact lab that Plato ran. You silently close your laptop and go to work. The loud men with the guns always get the front page headlines, but the cartel does not run on violence. Violence is just a logistical overhead. It runs on chemistry. Every dark empire needs a quiet builder who can turn powder into power. If you were placed in this exact situation, with your mother coughing up blood and the entire world turning its back on you, would you have cooked? Tell me your choice in the comments below and hit subscribe if you want to survive the underworld.